Welcome back, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. How we doing, guys? I am here. I'm alive. So, adjusting my lighting. There we go. Eh, that's pretty good, I guess. A little more red. A little more red. There we go. Woo! Here, let's go. Let's go this way so we get just a little bit. We can get the Santa Claus guy. There we go. I like Santa in there too. Anyway, welcome everybody. Sasha is on the porch eating wood. So, put my Vaseline for my lips away. Eating wood, so she'll be back in a moment. I'm just keeping. Oh, there you. Oh, hello. I know it's cold. Yeah, the wood's not so good today, huh? Not so good today. Oh well. Oi. There we go. All right. Well, that's her first foray into the woods. Anyway, welcome, guys. All right, let me get TikTok rolling here, and then we are ready to rock and roll. Ooh, nasty cold. I'm tired of this. It's freezing out. I know. And then I'm going to Chicago for Christmas, which will be even colder. Of course, big surprise. All right. Woo-woo. Chopping, yeah, the wood, probably the cold wood is like it's like a popsicle to her or something. Who knows, Hey, TikTokers. Hey, Bar, MD, Denise, Ashley. Welcome, everybody. How are we doing today? I am still back-ridden. Had my little back procedure today. So we will see in a few days minimum whether it helps. It has definitely wiped me out, though. I'm kind of like, oh. I took a nap today for about an hour, and it was not enough. The dog woke me up, of course. What kind of lawyer am I? A impoverished one. No. There really aren't kinds of lawyers in some ways. I mean, when you go to law school, they're not. After you leave law school, thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Evra. After you leave law school, you can specialize and become a corporate lawyer or whatever. I never practiced law. I hated it when I studied. When I did my law jobs in law school, I hated them. Thank you, Mikey. So I went to work in Congress right after I got out of law school and basically went into politics, or working in politics. Thank you, cool. Who else was that? Mikey. So I'm not any kind of lawyer in that sense. I mean, I studied a lot of different things. I focused a lot on international law. Thank you, Alexia. Thank you, Diana. Because I went to law school at Georgetown, and I did a joint degree at their School of Foreign Service, the Masters in Foreign Service program, which is basically international public policy. Thank you, Bjorn. So I did a lot of international legal studies because they also counted towards my Masters in Foreign Policy. So anyway, so that's my background. I mean, so I'm not a lawyer in anything, I guess. I mean, I am a lawyer, but maybe you'd say more international, foreign policy, things like that. Hey, Kronos. Hey, John. Hey, Bjorn. So yes, I had my little steroid injection in my back today. That was fun. It may help, it may not. Hey, Bjorn in Sweden. We will find out maybe in about 3 to 5 days. I hope so. That is what they say. I say possibly to be humble, Julian. The recent polls, people picked it as number one. Thank you, Kronos. But anyway, so I am here tonight. I kind of just didn't feel comfortable taking the night off, even though I feel like crap tonight, so be nice to me. Oh, boy. It's funny, like it wasn't such a bad procedure. I mean, it sounds like a horrific procedure, actually. I had to have a needle stuck in my spine today. So that's a bad procedure, I guess. Thank you, Bjorn. But it's not so serious a procedure, but it hurts like hell. And even though they numb it, it still hurts like hell when they're numbing it. And I think like anytime you go for a procedure, you're kind of like a little freaked out, even though you don't realize it. So like I finished and I was like, that was 5 minutes. That wasn't bad. Thank you, Super Hornet. And for the whole afternoon, I've been feeling a little like, whoa. Oh, thank you, Hannah. I'm glad to hear that. Terrified before they did yours. I mean, it's a little scary because basically I've had, thank you, Christina. Thank you, Balder. Thank you, Super Hornet. I've got a pinched nerve in my back that I need a hug. Exactly. Just be careful of my back. Thank you, Mark Star. Basically, I've got a pinched nerve in my back, which is a very layman's way of describing it. It can be caused by lots of different things. They all revolve around your spine. They all revolve around you getting older. So I've had it happen 8 years ago. They can give you a steroid injection in your back to help. Thank you, Daniel, for the hearts. It did help last time. It helped for like 8 years, which the doctor was shocked. Because I asked him, I Googled this and said, I had this procedure 8 years. They basically inject a steroid into your spine. It sounds crazy. It's not as bad as it sounds. and it can help the nerves calm down, and you get over basically I've got like nerve pain in my shoulder, my shoulder blade, so that if I told you guys, like I'm slouching in my chair, because if I sit up straight in my chair, thank you, Kronos. If I sit up straight in my chair, it makes it pinches the nerve and makes a pain in my shoulder blade as if there's a knife in my shoulder blade, because it's nerve pain. Nerve pain, people who have like serious nerve pain, it's a bad thing. We've talked about this with like shingles. Shingles, very bad because it's nerve pain, and nerve pain is very hard to get rid of. You can't just took gabapentin, didn't work for me. Thank you, Nicolate. None of the painkillers worked. I took codeine, gabapentin, methocarbamol. I took like all the crazy, what was it, meloxicam? I mean, you name it. Thank you, Larissa. All the like dangerous painkillers, not dangerous, but the ones that they worry about you getting hooked on, none of them did anything for the pain. So what do you do? Or democracy was reborn today in Romania. We're going to talk about it, Stelu. But in any case, so yes, so I had a little steroid injection in my spine today. Quite fun. And let's see. Hopefully it makes my pain go away a little bit. But at least right now it's I just feel like I'm wasted right now, though. It's like it's funny. Thank you, Jeremy. When you go for procedures and they're not that big of procedures, but you forget how much it takes out of you. Maybe it's just the stress or whatever. Is the Dr. Handsome? I'm not going to answer that. With my luck, somebody who knows him is online. I will say my doctor at the ER was very hot. The ER doctor was like smoking. But anyway, guys, welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is my show. We do this every Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern, me and the mods. We've got lots of fun moderators. And we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. So very exciting. Actually, Elon, I forgot about Elon. I wanted to add Elon to my list here. Thank you, whoever just mentioned Elon on Hardly on TikTok. I wanted to mention Elon today too, because I basically my news talk about the latest news from Ukraine. We also talk about sort of the Trump news, because I am in Washington D.C. So I try to sort of do updates on politics. We also talk about international news, which we'll be talking about today too. We're going to talk about Syria, what's been going on there, crazy stuff. Romania, really interesting news there. TikTok, clock's ticking. TikTok's in trouble today. I read, I'm not sure which New York Times article today, Frosted. I did read the New York Times today. I am on other, good question, chronically, Jamie. Jamie asked, am I on other platforms? Yes, I am. And we are one step closer today to TikTok being banned in the United States in about 5 weeks. The court found against TikTok and said, actually, we might as well start with that. Why not? Let's start with that. So U.S. court today, D.C. Court of Appeals, second largest court in the country, found, more or less second largest court in the country, found against TikTok. They ruled that the law that was passed, thank you, Cindy, very cool, the manifesting ball. The law that was passed last year, or maybe in the last year, going after TikTok and basically banning TikTok in the U.S. If something, I will explain what it is, but basically it's going to ban TikTok in about 5 months, five weeks in the U.S. They went to court. Thank you, Becky, for the gifts. They argued freedom of speech issues. The court threw it out, said, nope, no freedom of speech issues. TikTok is now taking it to the Supreme Court. Thank you, Flower Lady. Supreme Court is our top court of the country. Oh, thank you, Flower Lady. Oh, the dragon. Well, the dragon's new. No, the dragon's a little expensive, so I didn't want to ask people for too many of them. But it's a new gift, and I was curious what it looked like. Dragon Lady, of course, came through. Thank you for that. Thank you, WC. The Supreme Court would have to weigh in. The problem, because basically, lower court found against TikTok, said ban's going to stay in place. Next court, Court of Appeals, ban stays in place. Thank you, Luciano. Thank you, Jen. Now it has to go to the Supreme Court. Currently, the way it stands now, the court said TikTok's going to be banned in the U.S. in 5 weeks. TikTok can't do anything about it. The Supreme Court, two things have to happen. One, Supreme Court has to accept the case. The Supreme Court doesn't even have to accept the case. Just to remind people, what we're talking about is TikTok is in danger of getting banned next month. I did not see that they got a 90-day stay, Diana. Are you sure about that? Because I did not see that. They could very easily get that from the Supreme Court. That I would not be surprised if the Supreme Court gives them a stay. Basically, what would happen is, okay, let's recap again. Diana says they did get a 90-day stay. I will take her at her word. Hopefully that's, well, I say hopefully because, I don't necessarily want my livelihood to go thrown out the window. Let me pull this up here. TikTok. Let me pull up the latest. The latest AP story from 21 minutes ago. Let me see here. Okay, the AP story has nothing about a stay. I'm going to say TikTok. A stay would be where the court says, yeah, you got to sell, you got to close down TikTok, but we're going to temporarily put it on hold. Yeah, there's literally nothing in the news saying that there's a stay. I don't mean to disbelieve you, but you need to find an article saying that because there's no article saying they got to stay. The stay won't happen until the Supreme Court takes the, appeals court could have put a stay. That's not written in here. Okay, here's the deal. Months ago, U.S. Congress passed a law that said TikTok has to sell itself. It can no longer be owned by the Chinese Communist Party, which American lawmakers claimed it was. Thank you, LR2. Thank you, Gabs. Because TikTok is owned by a company called ByteDance. ByteDance is a Chinese company. China is a communist dictatorship. I mean, it is. And I hope our overlords don't mind, but, come on, guys. Now is not the time to clamp down on free speech on TikTok when you're arguing free speech before the Supreme Court, just saying. But TikTok is owned by a Chinese company. China is a communist dictatorship. The Chinese Communist Party controls everything in that country, including all the companies. The fear, therefore, was among American lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats, was that the Chinese could use TikTok to basically get information on all of the users. I mean, for example, it took TikTok about 3 days to figure out that I was gay. I kid you not. I was not on when I first got on TikTok, I was not like looking for gay content. Some friends had sent me some stuff and I was looking at it, and all of a sudden I started getting all of these gay creators on TikTok. Within 3 days, TikTok knew I was gay. That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Thank you, Brandy. The bigger concern is TikTok's algorithm. American lawmakers, but now European lawmakers as well. We're going to start talking about the Romanian story that somebody just mentioned on TikTok. European lawmakers are very concerned about TikTok's influence with elections in Europe. American lawmakers were concerned hypothetically that TikTok could be used by Chinese Communist Party itself to basically sway American elections by slowly showing you different content, right? Like the election comes up and TikTok decides to show you pro-Trump content more so than pro-Biden or pro-Kamala Harris. Well, that was all hypothetical until Romania happened last week. Romania had elections for, double check here, was it prime minister, guys? I hate you Europeans with your crazy elections. You always confuse me. Presidential election in Romania. The election happens like last Sunday. The normal people are in the lead. Crazy guy no one's heard of has 5% of the vote in the polls. 5% of the votes, okay? Crazy right-winger, pro-Russian, hates Europe, hates NATO. They go to the election. Crazy guy who's a Putin crony, basically, has only 5% of the vote in the polls. They go to the election on Sunday. For the 3 days before that, this guy explodes on TikTok. He's super famous on TikTok. Viral videos everywhere. Millions of accounts or millions of people sharing his content. And he wins the election with 23% of the vote. He had 5% of the vote going into the election. Election day, he had 23% after his candidacy exploded on TikTok. He wins the runoff. So basically, if no candidate has 50% of the vote, then you have a runoff of the top two candidates. So one of them you have to get 50% to win. So now it's crazy right-wing Putin guy versus normal, I think, woman who were going to be in the runoff. And they found tons of evidence that basically the Russians helped steal the election by using TikTok. Okay? What happens today? Romania's constitutional court just threw out the election. The top court in the country said the election is invalidated. It was basically stolen by the Russians, basically, using TikTok, and they're going to have another election. I think, well, there's a couple things. Russia got what it wanted because just by throwing out the election, you now cast doubt on democracy, right? Per se. I mean, Romania is admitting that their democratic system can't be trusted anymore because the Russians have already co-opted it and stolen, right? Really crazy. Well, take us back to America. That happens the same day that the second highest court in America rules that TikTok, in fact, will get shut down in America if it doesn't get sold, because TikTok is owned by a Chinese company. China is a communist dictatorship, and the American government is worried. American lawmakers, Republican and Democrats, by the way, are worried that the Chinese might use TikTok to influence American elections too. And again, now it's no longer hypothetical because it happened in Romania. So fascinating story. What happens next? Let's see. Congress could change the law. The problem is, the new Congress comes January 3rd, I think, 3rd or 4th is the new Congress, meaning we just had a presidential election, but we had a congressional election too. The Congress could repeal the law. They could change it, and Republicans might. It gets a little weird. Republicans hate China more than Democrats do. That's the first problem. So typically, Republicans would be even more upset about TikTok than Democrats. Donald Trump himself tried to ban TikTok multiple times when he was president. Now Trump is in favor of TikTok because Trump had a meeting with a rich billionaire donor. And the rich billionaire donor is an investor in ByteDance, the TikTok parent company. And what do you know? After meeting with the billionaire privately, having a secret meeting, Donald Trump now supports TikTok. Surprise! Surprise! After trying to shut down TikTok repeatedly. The problem is for Trump is that even if he supports TikTok, if the law doesn't give him an out, if the law says TikTok gets banned in the US, in 6 weeks, there's not much Trump can do about it. Republicans in Congress would have to try to change the law. A lot of them don't want the law changed because, a lot of them want TikTok banned, right? Like as I said, Republicans and Democrats both don't really like China. Republicans, though, even more so, which puts Trump in a really interesting position because generally speaking, the Republican Party, the MAGA group, they act a bit cultish, right? Trump says something and they all salute and go, yes, sir, right? Trump says Republicans no longer, the Republicans now like the Russians, now like Putin, now like Russian intervention abroad, and the Republicans now go, yay, we agree, right? So there's always the issue of, will Republicans change their tune on TikTok now that Trump is in favor of TikTok? We don't know. It is a mess. I will say I'm on YouTube as well. Everybody better start following me on YouTube. I'm John Aravosis, DC on YouTube. I am also my same last name that you see, my name on TikTok, Aravosis. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, all of those things as Aravosis. Go find me and follow me. But also on YouTube, especially because YouTube and TikTok are where I do my main broadcast for all of this. So we shall see. Trump doesn't want to. Thank you, chronically, Jamie. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, we'll see. It's kind of crazy what's going on. It's pretty wild. I also, just a reminder, speaking of TikTok and everything else, I've got our coffee talk tomorrow. Every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time US, I do a hangout. Thank you, Martin, just for the paid subscribers, for the monthly subscribers. So that's for all of you on TikTok and Discord and YouTube and everywhere else who are monthly subscribers. Basically on TikTok, it's those of you guys who have SNN next to your name. If you notice, Ashley right there has a comment and she's got SNN, Sasha News Network, next to her name. Thank you, Ernie, for the gift. Martin, too. Anybody who has SNN next to their name is a monthly subscriber, either because you did subscribe monthly on TikTok or because maybe you got a free 1 month donation from someone. Either way, I will be live Monday or Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern with you guys, and the same thing on YouTube for everybody with a green name. Those are the monthly subscribers. Discord, same thing. Paid Discord subscribers, so join me tomorrow morning. All right, let's get into the rest of the news now. As I said, I had like some, thank you, Chazek. I had a back procedure today, which has left me very tired. Thank you, Chazek. So we're going to do this. Let's see how long I go tonight, but I didn't think it would be this exhausting, but it was. basically, I've had a pinched nerve in my back, and I don't want to keep saying this because it's gross, but they had to inject a needle in my spine to inject steroids. And it wasn't as bad as it sounds, but it's funny how, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Randy, Jorge as well. It's funny how medical procedures, even though they're not, it was like 5 minutes, they can still knock you out, even though they don't knock you out. I know my voice is scratchy too, and I'm not sure why. Oh, hello, Cheryl. Actually, that's really funny the way it comes on too. Like, ooh, it kind of comes down on your head. I'm going to guess this is probably my allergies doing the voice thing. I'm guessing because I noticed that today too. All of a sudden I got raspy. Thank you, Brandy and Cheryl. It does drain the energy, she says. Yeah, very surprising. You passed out when you had yours. I'm always surprised at like medical procedures that aren't that big a deal, but they just wear you out. It's weird how much they wear you out, you know? So I took a couple of acetaminophen. I'm still feeling not great. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Randy. I did take an hour-long nap. The dog didn't. My dog is classic. You know, she gets bored after an hour. My very needy dog. So I napped for an hour, and then she woke me up, and I was like, I'm going to kill you. Oh, God, Carol, you had 40 or 50. All right. Next up, Syria. Crazy. We are going to talk about Ukraine, but there is a ton of news today, guys. Syria is falling. You may have heard Syria, government in the Middle East, near Israel, near Jordan, near Iraq, near Lebanon, run by a dictator family for 50 years. Thank you, Paul Smith, for following me. Run by a dictator named Assad. He and his father for the last 50 years. Father for several decades. He for the last 2 decades. Brutal dictatorship. Mass murder of their own people. The father mass murdered people in a couple towns. The son did the same thing using sarin gas, nerve gas, against innocent children, civilians, including children. Horrible videos of children being gassed and killed. These are not nice guys. But thank you, Janice, for the subscription. I would say many people in the West, governments, sort of, basically didn't try to take him out because, and we've talked about this before, generally speaking, I tell folks, one of the things they taught us in graduate school, when I studied foreign international relations in graduate school, is you don't take out foreign leaders, you don't remove foreign leaders unless you know what's coming next, because it can be worse. Thank you, Jetta. You can get a more brutal dictatorship. You can get even worse. You can get the country falling apart. So all of a sudden there's civil war. The country could break into, the Soviet Union broke into 15 countries, although the Soviet Union was 15 countries in many ways. So you can have lots of issues with that. So the world kind of came together and said, Assad was really bad. Let's just keep him there because at least he's the devil we know, right? But a very bad devil supporting terrorism. Dog, fine. Dog wants more water. Just for the record, I gave the dog water when the show started, but this is my life. So 1 second, please. You are so bad, dog. You are so bad. So bad. So bad. There. All right. So, Syria. Brutal dictatorship, last 50 years. Thank you, Succeed. Thank you, Jean-Marquis. Very anti-American, very anti-Israel, really anti-moderate governments in the Middle East as well. The dictatorship is in cahoots with the Iranians, really in cahoots with the Russians. Syria, thank you, John Smith. Syria is Russia's top ally in the Middle East. A week ago, the rebels assemble. Now, there have been rebels fighting against Assad, the dictator, for decades. The rebels launch a big attack a week ago. And this time, thank you, Dawn, for whatever reason, they've been training a lot the last many years. They've been forming alliances, trying to be less crazy, because the rebels were Al-Qaeda. The lead rebel group was Al-Qaeda, a terrorist group, right? Islamists, Taliban light, they were called. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Russell. So the lead rebel group launches a new attack last week. This time, for whatever reason, it works. All of a sudden, the number 2 city in Syria falls, Aleppo. The number 3 city, I think it's number 3 city, is Hamas. Hama falls. Now they're heading towards Homs, which is another big Syrian town. Syria is in serious danger of getting overthrown. Assad, the dictator. The Russians, they're bombing a little, but basically can't help. Why? Little old Russia got itself into a little old war in Ukraine. It's taken too long, right? It's taken 1,016 days, 3 years, for a war that was supposed to take 3 days. Thank you, Dawn. The Russians can't afford to go to war in Syria to basically to back up Assad. So they're not. The Iranians can't afford it. The Iranians are busy helping the Russians in Ukraine, and the Iranians are busy blowing up the Israelis and getting blown up in return, even worse. Iran is worried that if they get involved heavily in Syria, they're going to potentially, it gets kind of funny, actually. It gets actually very funny. Yes, because Iran is helping the Syrian dictator, but they've only got so much they can help him with because they've got to defend themselves against the Israelis, possibly. So Syria is exploding. Iran is losing its influence. And the interesting thing with Iran is Iran has been funneling weapons forever to Hezbollah, the terrorist group in Lebanon. Now, not to be confused with Hamas, which is the terrorist group in Gaza. Okay, Gaza is run by terrorists. The Palestinians elected them to power like 17 years ago. Big mistake. Thank you, Grandma. Could have told them. Kind of like our elections. You elect terrorists, and what do you know? You elected a terrorist group to be your leadership, and the terrorists aren't leaving, and they're doing bad things. Yeah, no shit. This is not a surprise, guys. Thank you, Grandma. This is a different terrorist group, Hezbollah, which is a terrorist group in Lebanon that has basically forced themselves onto the Lebanese, half the country they occupy. It's just very sad. Lebanon's a great place. Historically is known to be a beautiful place, great country, very educated, developed, and they've destroyed it, Hezbollah. Anyway, Hezbollah gets its weapons from Iran. How do they get the weapons from Iran to keep them in power? By land, via Syria. The rebels in Iran can't stand the Iranians. In Syria can't stand the Iranians. The Iranians are helping Assad, the government, fight the rebels. If Assad loses, Iran will lose its route, its land route for getting weapons to Hezbollah. So all of a sudden, Hezbollah, that's already in trouble, thank you, Just Me, because the Israelis have been blowing the crap out of them. Hezbollah is the group that the Israelis blew up the 5,000 pagers on all these terrorists in their pockets. That's Hezbollah. Israel has taken out their leadership, and now you've got them in serious danger of losing their weapons. Sasha is being very active today. I know, Robert. So really interesting. So you've got the Iranians in serious trouble, Hezbollah in serious trouble, the Russians in serious trouble, because this is Russia's number one ally in the Middle East they're about to lose. And even better, thank you, Just Me, Russia also has a naval base in Syria. The Syrians gave it to the Soviets back in 1971. It's Russia's only naval base in the Mediterranean. They use it all the time for projecting force into Africa and everywhere else. If they lose this naval base, it's a huge problem. There are reports, as Roberto just said, that the Russians already moved all of their warships from Syria. It's in the near term, in the short term, this is fabulous what's happening, because Assad is a brutal, horrific, genocidal dictator, and he's going down. The Russians are losing their top ally in the Middle East. The Russians are losing their only naval port in the Mediterranean. The Iranians are losing a key ally. The Iranians are losing the main way that they have for getting weapons to the terrorist groups, Hezbollah in Lebanon. Thank you, Jonathan. It's beautiful what's happening. Longer term, you got to worry because these guys are not good people. Like I said, the rebels were Al-Qaeda. They were terrorists. They're still called a terrorist group by the U.S. Thank you, Michael. So, thank you, Jonathan. So it gets, fascinating though. Now, will this end anytime soon? Who knows? Maybe. Just kind of fascinating. All right, a little bit more here. Let me see. Oh, actually, another thing, just a quick little thing here that was interesting. One of Assad's top defenders, one of his top allies in one of the other towns, I don't remember if it was Aleppo. I didn't write it down, but one of his top supporters tweeted today, and this is a top dictator supporter in Syria, tweeted today and said, one of his allies, can't we all just get along? I think it's time that we put everything behind us and we just sat down and really tried to figure out a peace. And basically, he caved. Rather than defending Assad, thank you, Michael, for the gift. Rather than defending Assad, he came and he basically put out an olive branch to the rebels that are trying to go after Assad. And the sort of defense experts thought that that was indicative of just how much trouble Assad is in, because some of his top allies are literally publicly telling the insurgents, okay, we get it. What do you want? You know, we're with you, which is fascinating. So really, really trouble there. Let me see here. What was this from the New York Times today? Oh yeah, let's look at the New York Times. The Assad regime may not be able to withstand the rebel offensive unless Russia provides swift and significant military support, according to Neil Quilliam, an associate fellow at Chatham House, a UK-based think tank. Quote, it is highly doubtful that the regime can survive without a rapid, large-scale Russian deployment, as the main opposition group and other forces bear down in Damascus. The prospect of that happening is starting to look very slim. Basically, because the Russians are so overstretched, as Frank just said, in Ukraine, they can't afford a whole other war in Syria. So the Russians are going to, I mean, think about this as far as how much Putin is screwed up, okay? Putin invades Ukraine. In the end, he does get something out of it. He's occupying 18% of Ukraine, right? He's stolen a bunch of Ukrainian territory and has declared it to now be Russia. So Russia did expand its territory some, but 750,000 casualties. That's men injured and killed. Possibly 200,000 men killed in the war. Horrific. I mean, horrific numbers that Putin has lost. Russian economy decimated, still hanging in there, but decimated, right? NATO, as a result of the invasion, Sweden and Finland joined NATO. Let's pretend Putin's telling the truth. No, he's not telling the truth, but let's pretend Putin's telling the truth and he invaded Ukraine to stop Ukraine from joining NATO. No, Ukraine wasn't joining NATO. Ukraine's been trying to join NATO since 2008, and NATO basically told them to go fuck themselves. I mean, it was terrible the way NATO mistreated Ukraine. So for 16, no, not for 16 years, for, well, 2008 to 2014, so that's 6 years, Ukraine was trying to join NATO. NATO said no, Russia invades anyway. Then 2022, which is now 14 years after Ukraine tries to join NATO, Russia invades again and claims it's because of NATO. NATO wasn't going anywhere. Well, what happens as a result? Sweden and Finland join NATO because Russia invades Ukraine. Russia totally shot itself in the foot on that one. Now they're about to lose their top Middle East ally, Syria, and they can't help because they're involved in Ukraine. They don't have the weapons. They don't have the manpower. They're about to lose their only naval port in the Mediterranean, which is in Syria, and they can't help because they screwed up in Ukraine. Very, very interesting. Just really interesting. So, anyway, Romania we talked about. The Romanian presidential election was thrown out by the Constitutional Court because the Russians basically tried to steal the election, and they fear the Russians did steal the election using TikTok. The Constitutional Court threw out the election. They're going to have to do it again. What is interesting is that I'm trying to think what was the other. Sorry, I told you I had like back doctor procedure today, which has left me a little bit like a little loopy. Romania throughout the European Commission, I think it is, basically threatened TikTok today and said they better come forward with a lot of information on what the hell happened in Romania, or the Europeans are going to ban TikTok too. So getting very interesting for TikTok. And as you all know, I have often said TikTok would do well to hire people like me and other people to give them some strategic advice, because currently I don't know who's advising them, but they're running into a buzzsaw in both the US and Europe, and they need to basically talk to people and figure out what to do to be a little more, because they're, Elon, I was going to mention Elon Musk really quick. So a big story out of the US today, in the last 2 to 3 days, Republicans, including Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who I'll tell you about in a second, have repeatedly talked about possibly cutting Social Security and Medicare to address our budget deficit. Now, Republicans always come to power and talk about our budget deficit, how it's too big. And then what happens is Republicans always then increase the budget deficit. And by the time they leave office, the deficit's even worse. Democrats come to power. Democrats traditionally cut the budget deficit. Google it. You'll see I'm telling you the truth. Ronald Reagan comes to power in the 1980s. Jimmy Carter leaves him with an okay budget. Ronald Reagan comes to power. Thank you, Martin. Does tax cuts, massive tax cuts, massive budget deficit. Bill Clinton comes to power. Cuts the budget. Gets us to a budget surplus. We actually were making money under Bill Clinton. $400 billion surplus. George Bush comes in. Cuts taxes. No, excuse me. Then it's George Bush II comes in, does a $1.8 trillion tax cut, busts the budget. Obama comes in. And at this point now, we had the economic meltdown, so the budget goes through the roof. Obama comes in, high budget deficits because of the crises and everything else. He's there for 8 years. It starts to get somewhat better. Trump comes in, and the budget deficit goes through the roof again, because what does Trump do? More tax cuts. What has happened, and I will say both parties, well, it depends. Both parties have spent a lot of money. Republicans have certainly spent more. Historically, they've done these tax cuts that have broken the bank. Now, I did a video on TikTok about this. I like tax cuts, right? I'd rather pay less in taxes, but when you cut taxes, you cut money, and the money for the government means there's more of a deficit, unless you cut programs. Well, the problem is, and I don't know that I've got the, I'm going to see if I've got the picture in front of me. The problem is, in the U.S. budget, a lot of the budget goes to things that really can't be cut because they're, let me pull this up, because they're basically, well, I'll go through this in a second. Let me see if I can find there was a really nice, I thought I got a picture on TV the other day. I don't know if I'm going to find this. Hold on. Hold on. Where's my little picture? If not, we're out of luck, but I'm going to see if I can. But for example, Social Security. Social Security is the U.S. federal I'm not going to find this. Damn it. Oh, son of a bitch. Social Security is a federal program to give retirement benefits to Americans when they retire. You could get anywhere from $1,000, $2,000, $4,000, even $5,000 a month, for like $4,800 a month. It's quite significant. Now, it is not a program of basically government spending. It is not the government giving you the money. Social Security is actually subsidized by us, the taxpayers. Every paycheck, a portion of our paycheck gets taken out and it goes to Social Security. So basically what the government does is they take our money and then they give it back to us once we retire. Of course, they give you less once you retire because, that's the way it works. But it is not, Republicans are calling it an entitlement, meaning, something everyone's entitled to, as though it's a gift or something. It's not a gift. Social Security, quite literally, we pay a tax specifically for Social Security. Thank you, Laddie, for the gift. And what Republicans and Democrats both really have done is that money was supposed to go into the budget and be like in a lockbox. Al Gore famously called it a lockbox. The lockbox idea was that when we paid the money into Social Security to build up a big reserve, they shouldn't have touched it. It should have been put away like in a bank account or something. But they didn't do that. They just considered it part of the federal revenue, and they spent it on other stuff, Republicans and Democrats both. So now everyone's worried that Social Security may not have enough money in about 10 years, and they keep talking about cutting it. Well, there are other options. One thing they did several years ago, they have been cutting it already for years, which is actually very annoying. They've been cutting it for years. Oops, hold on. I hate when my thing does this. There it is. They've been, for example, in the 1980s, the Republicans and the Democrats got together and decided to tax Social Security. Social Security was not taxed. You would receive Social Security when you're retired, and it was tax-free. Now they tax it. Then they took the age limit, like when you retire, and they raised the retirement age. Well, now they're talking about cutting some benefits. Now, one thing they could do is, again, long story, one thing they could do is Social Security, at a certain point, you're not taxed. You're taxed on, somebody want to Google it, we talked about this the other day, is that you're taxed on the first $185,000 of income, more or less. Somebody Google the exact number, but basically, if you make, thank you, Courtney, for the bubble gum. If you make $150,000 a year, all of that money will be taxed. I don't know if it's 6% or however much it is for Social Security, 3%. I'm forgetting how much it is, but you get this. You pay the Social Security tax. If you make $200,000 a year, first 140,000. Is that what it is, Chris? Let's say it's the first 140,000. I want to make sure I get this correct. But bottom line is, let's say you make 200,000 a year. The first 140,000 or so is taxed for Social Security. The rest of it isn't. So if you make $1 million a year, $10 million a year, you're paying tax on just the first 140,000 or whatever it is. You're not paying on the rest of it for Social Security. That's ridiculous. And they're saying Social Security doesn't have enough money because people like Elon Musk are paying the same amount every year of tax for Social Security as somebody making $200,000, right? Shouldn't Elon Musk making billions of dollars pay more for Social Security as a tax than somebody making $200,000? That's ridiculous. So there's lots of ways around it. The reason I brought it up is because in the last couple of days, Republicans in Congress, multiple Republicans in Congress have said that Social Security is now on the table for cutting. They've said that Medicare is on the table. Medicare is our federal health benefit. That basically it's federal health insurance you get when you retire in America at age 65. They're talking about cutting that now. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have now twice in the last few days talked about cutting Social Security and Medicare. Vivek and Elon, you may know, have been appointed by Trump to run this group that will oversee cutting, like ways of cutting the budget, right? And they've now both talked about cutting Social Security and Medicare. Today, it was reported that the John Thune, who's the top Republican in the Senate coming in, Republicans won the Senate in this recent election. So come January, Republicans will be in control of the United States Senate. And the top Republican coming in said Social Security and Medicare will be on the table for things that we cut. I mean, and this is something Republicans have wanted to do for years. Trump even said he was for cutting it. And then Trump turned around when he got into trouble and said, no, we're not going to cut Social Security. We're not. Well, they lied because Trump said they wouldn't cut Social Security. This week we had Vivek, Elon Musk, the top Republican in the Senate, and several Republican congressmen all say Social Security and Medicare are on the cutting board, are on the table to be cut with everything else. And again, Medicare as well. That's my money. There's a tax for Medicare too. I paid for Medicare. All my life, I didn't need Medicare because I was younger, and I paid for it already. Social Security, it's literally my money and your money. And they're taking our money, and now they're going to tell us that we get less money, that they're going to raise the age on when we can retire. They're going to give us less money, all because they spent our money. And by the way, a lot of it, like I said, was spent on tax cuts. Donald Trump, I don't want my taxes to go up. I like tax cuts. Donald Trump's tax cuts expire next year. The tax cuts from the first time he was president. The Republican Congress will certainly renew Trump's tax cuts. Trump's tax cuts cost $4 trillion over the next 10 years, $400 billion a year. That's a lot of money, $400 billion a year if they continue Trump's tax cuts. Again, I actually am happy to say I would like to keep my Trump tax cut. I don't know how much it is. I'm sure it's something, right? But if we're talking about cutting spending or fixing the deficit, I would rather have a tax increase overall than cutting the money that I get for my retirement. And frankly, we should be taxing the rich more. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Anyway, it's very upsetting. But that was a big story today in the U.S. because it's been kind of blowing up. And as you can imagine, it's a big third rail of American politics, where basically you talk about cutting Medicare or Social Security and you're toast. And Trump hasn't said anything yet, but Trump's supporters in Congress and Elon Musk are now talking about cutting Social Security. Very, very scary news. What else we got here? South Korea. There is a vote tomorrow on impeaching the South Korean president after he tried to basically install a military government and suspended democracy in that country. Let's go move on to Ukraine now. Zelensky is going to meet Donald Trump at Notre Dame. The French are reopening Notre Dame Cathedral. I think it's been like 5 years now since Notre Dame burned down famously. They're reopening it. They're having a big opening event of leaders from around the world. And President Macron of France, very interestingly, invited Donald Trump, even though he's not president yet. He's trying to suck up to Trump, so he invited him to the reopening. And Zelensky's going and reportedly will be meeting Trump, which is not a bad thing. Lukashenko, this was funny. Lukashenko, who's the dictator of Belarus. Belarus is an ally of Russia. They're a brutal dictatorship. They border Ukraine. And Lukashenko, the dictator, this is the news today, such bullshit. Lukashenko has asked Putin to deploy Oreshnik missiles in Belarus. Oreshnik missiles are those missiles that Putin fired a couple weeks ago and everybody freaked out. Thank you, Jean-Marc, for no reason. Remember, they're the missiles that are like new missiles and they can contain nuclear weapons, but they don't. And I was like, who cares? You fired a missile that doesn't have a nuclear weapon. You do that every day. For the last 3 years, you've been firing missiles that don't have nuclear weapons. Why do I care? But the Russians were trying to scare everybody. Oh my God, it could have nukes. No, it couldn't. He's not going to use nukes. Well, now the Belarusians are asking Putin to install the new scary missile in Belarus. What that really means is that Putin, in an effort to try to bluff us again, told his puppet, the Belarusian dictator, he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to publicly ask me to put the missiles in your country because we want to freak out NATO. Oh my God, now they're redeploying the missiles. And it's been very helpful because people like, well, frankly, Donald Trump and his supporters, Tucker Carlson was just in Russia doing this, keep talking about nuclear war. They keep repeating Putin's talking point. Oh my God, there's going to be a nuclear war. There's not going to be a nuclear war. There's not going to be any nuclear war. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Yeah, but the missiles go 5 times as fast. Who the hell cares, Dave? Really? Do 5 times as fast missiles kill more people when they blow up? No. Nobody cares if the missiles go 5 times as fast. Literally, nobody cares. Seriously. I mean, the entire argument about these missiles is, oh my God, there's going to be a nuclear war. There's a new missile. Why is that exactly? Thank you, Mustard, for the gift. Why? That is the argument. The argument is there will be a nuclear war because of these missiles. Thank you. Who was that? Thank you, Mustard, for the dragon. Why will there be a nuclear war? Why would Putin start a nuclear war with us if he knew that we were going to respond and blow his country off the planet? If he does that, which we will. So why would he do that? I know it's not what you're saying, but it's what people literally, that is the argument. Doesn't matter what you're saying. The argument is these new missiles mean nuclear war. They can carry nuclear warheads. We're all going to die. And the point is, no, you're not. It's a new missile. It goes faster. Who the hell cares? Who the hell cares? It can carry multiple bombs. Congratulations. Russian rockets have carried multiple bombs for 50 years. Oh, it can carry nuclear weapons. Congratulations. Russian rockets have carried nuclear bombs for 60 years. Why do we care? What happens if Putin attacks us with nuclear weapons? Our nuclear submarines would respond and blow Russia off the face of the map. Is Putin stupid enough to do that? No, they're not. As Sting famously said, the Russians love their children too. They're not going to start a nuclear war with us because they'd all die. That would be stupid, and they're not stupid. So why do I care that Russia's? Sure, if you care about defense issues, thank you, Carol. If you care about defense issues, you don't like it when Russia gets a better missile, right? Because now we need a better missile. It's all that competition thing. Sure. Is it the end of the world that Russia built a new missile that, by the way, hasn't even been tested yet? Right? I think like they shot one off that worked and they shot another one that didn't work. I mean, it's a new missile. By the way, this missile's been new since 2018, apparently. Okay? It's 2025 already in a couple of weeks. Since 2018, Russia's had this new missile that hasn't worked in 6 or 7 years. So give me a break. No, I mean, I really mean it. Like, it is a scare tactic. It is a bluff. Putin's trying to scare people, as always. The only reason I don't even like to bring it up because I hate to give oxygen to Putin's bluffs, but they're bluffing. They're scared to death of us. The Russians are scared of us. They know we will win a war against them. A war against them would be very bad. Nobody wants to go to war against Russia. But we'd win. And the Russians know it. And the point is, the only way Putin can scare us is trying to make people think, oh, he's crazy. Who knows what he'll do? Yes, it would be dangerous for him to start a nuclear war, but maybe he's crazy. He's not crazy. He's a very smart, strategic guy. Sometimes his strategies backfire a little, like invading Ukraine, but he's a very smart guy. He's not suicidal. He, if anything, wants to be known, and he said this as Peter the Great Russian in history who expanded Russia and brought it back to, he wants to make Russia great again. He doesn't want to make Russia a nuclear wasteland. There's just like no way he's going to get us into a nuclear war. In any case, more news. Oh, speaking of which, this was fascinating. I'm gonna call it quits in a second. We'll just do Q&A because there's a lot more news, but I don't want to go through too much more. New York Times, speaking of Putin bluffing, New York Times has an article. Russia's top general gave a call to our top general last week, right before Thanksgiving, to try to cool things down over that missile, over the missile that we're talking about, KT, right? The missile that can fire nuclear weapons, that, oh my God, Putin fired it. We should all be scared. Well, his top general called our top general and said, we were planning for months to fire that. We didn't fire it because you guys gave Ukraine permission to fire American missiles inside Russia. I know Putin said that. That's not why we did it. We were planning it for months. It's not an escalation, blah, blah, blah. Totally contradicting Putin, which is really bad because it makes the general look really bad. But it goes to show that Putin was bullshitting. And it doesn't just show that. It shows the Russians were actually worried. The Russians were actually worried that they scared us, because the Russians thought if we thought the Russians were threatening nukes, we might do something. Again, this is what I've been saying, right? The only people more scared than you about nuclear war with Russia is Russia. Russia are going to war with us, period. You're afraid of going to war with Russia. The only people more afraid of going to war with Russia and us is Putin himself, because he knows he'd lose. And that is a perfect example. He put his general on the phone with his tail between the legs saying, please don't hurt us. We didn't mean it. It wasn't really meant to be a threat. We were going to do it anyway for months. It wasn't escalation. Please don't hurt us. You know, they lie. I mean, they go public and they try to scare people and they lie. Okay, here's a story I am going to tell you because this was funny. At least 10 Shahed-type drones. These are the Russian drones from Iran that they've been firing into Ukraine. At least 10 Shahed-type drones veered into Belarusian territory during an overnight attack on Ukraine. The Russians sent 53 drones against Ukraine. 10 of them turned around and flew into Belarus. Belarus is Russia's dictator ally. I'd reported last week that the Ukrainians found a way to hack the drones and have been screwing with the GPS. And they're basically sending false GPS signals back to the drones. So the operators, the human operators of the drones, are looking at the GPS trying to figure out where the drone is so they can fly it into Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are giving them false maps. So the Russians are going, oh, I'm off course. I've got to go this way. And they're tricking the Russian drone operators into flying Russian drones into Belarus, Russia's ally. So they're attacking Russia's own ally. Really freaking funny. So I had to tell you that one because that one cracked me up. Let me look here. Like I said, I'm not going to do too many more. Ukraine revealed a new rocket today. Ukrainian partisans sabotaged Russian railways in Russia. That was pretty cool. Russian casualty numbers are off the charts, absolutely off the charts. 50,000 a month, which is crazy. Institute for the Study of War says that basically not only can Russia not sustain this militarily, but Russia's economy won't be able to sustain this because basically Russia is killing its own men that are basically the prime age to work in the economy, which I thought was very interesting. So, all right, we'll stop with that, hang out for a bit and talk. Thank you, MYA, for the lightning bolt. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. I do this for a living. I do it full time. I hate to ask you, but your gifts quite literally are paying my bills. So, and if TikTok gets banned in 5 weeks, we're going to be really in trouble. Oh, thank you for the crab. Oh, that's cute, Leah. Oh, that's a new one. The cheering crab is new too. Thank you for that. So yeah, this is our part where we hang out, we talk. Thank you, Hedge. Thank you, PC Null. Appreciate that, guys. I mean, that's the interesting question. Bad Omen says, will they nuke Ukraine when they realize they aren't going to get it? That is, the tube of you, exactly. That is the concern. I'm not saying they would do it. There is a 0% chance Russia's going to nuke us because they know we nuke them back, right? So they're not going to do it. Thank you, Maya. The bigger concern is, would Russia nuke Ukraine, right? If Russia nuked Ukraine, we would not nuke them back. I do not think. None of us would. The Brits have nuclear weapons. The French do. We do. We wouldn't nuke Russia back. So that would be, if you were doing a spreadsheet or a ledger, you'd say, okay, well, if Russia attacks us, Russia's got to balance things and say, if I use nukes, what's the response? Is it worth it? If I use nukes against America, Britain, or France, or a NATO ally, is it worth it? No, because NATO will nuke me back. So Russia won't do that. If I use nukes against Ukraine and I'm Russia, will NATO nuke Russia back? No, they won't. So the question becomes, but what would NATO do? What would NATO do? Would NATO potentially enter the war? Under Donald Trump, I'm not sure. Under Joe Biden, probably. Maybe, probably. I think the Brits would, if Russia used a nuke, I think the Brits would enter the war. I think the Poles would enter the war. I think the Baltic states would enter the war. Czech Republic might enter the war. The Scandinavian countries might, the countries up there in the north might. And by the way, any of those guys enter the war, and all of us are potentially at war at that point. So Russia's got to say, even if I attack Ukraine, what will NATO do? If I nuke Ukraine, what will NATO do in response? Thank Paul. And will it be worth it? Depends if NATO goes to war, right, with Russia. Thank you, NJ Patman. It also depends what Russia gets out of it. Because, for example, how does it benefit Russia if Russia goes, oh, if no, I don't see this really happening. Let's pretend Ukraine starts winning the war and Russia gets kicked out. Thank you, Alex, for the gifts. The Patman, Paul, Joy, lots of gifts coming in. Thank you, guys. Let's just pretend that Ukraine starts to win somehow and Russia gets kicked out entirely of Ukraine. Would the Russians, you want to try this again? Oh, no, maybe not. Would the Russians nuke Ukraine on the way out to go, nah, 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 nah? I guess my argument would be, why would they, right? What does it get them? I mean, just to be a dick? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense why they would do that. It doesn't get them anything. It doesn't help them in future wars if they nuke Ukraine. If anything, again, it potentially means it risks war with NATO. I mean, I don't think NATO would use a nuke in response. I do think if Russia used a nuke, there'd be a chance of a war between NATO and Russia. There would be if they used a nuke in Ukraine. I mean, I don't know what would happen. So I guess I just don't see. I'm hard. And again, I think Putin is logical and rational. He's a jerk. He's a war criminal. Thank you, Rock Hunter, for subscribing. He's a war criminal, but a genocidal war criminal, but he's logical and he's rational. What benefit is there to, hello, dog, what benefit is there to Putin nuking Ukraine on the way out just to be a dick? I just don't see it happening. It doesn't get them anything, So that's why I don't see it happening. But I think the bigger concern isn't Putin nuking Ukraine on the way out. It's Putin nuking Ukraine before he leaves. What I mean is doing it as a, I told you so, NATO, right? I told you so. I'm going to drop a nuke, and now I'll drop more unless you concede. Again, the problem is that presumes that NATO would cave. Donald Trump might cave. I think a lot of European governments would go to war with Russia if they dropped a nuke. So, and it all depends. And then it all depends. Does Putin believe that, right? How well have the Europeans and the Americans and the Canadians informed Putin of what we will do if he uses a nuke? If we gave him a sufficient threat and Putin believes us, then he won't use the nukes. If we didn't give a sufficient threat or Putin doesn't believe our threat, then he might use nukes. Would Russia use nukes against Scandinavians? Same problem. No, because you're members of NATO. No, he can't. Again, the second he uses a nuke against Scandinavia, he goes to war with all the Scandinavians. He goes to war with the Brits, right? He'd go to war with the Baltic states, the Poles. I mean, and the Americans under Biden, certainly. Under Trump, who the hell knows? But you'd have World War III at that point if he uses a nuke. There might very well be a nuclear response if he uses a nuke against NATO. There may have to be a nuclear response. Thank you, Toic. I mean, it gets into a very interesting question because you would basically have the government, if Putin were to use a nuke against NATO, you would have a very serious discussion of, if we don't use a nuke back, what does it means our nukes don't even exist? Because if we don't use a nuke back, then it would be telling Russia or China even, you can nuke us, and in reality, we'll be too afraid to use one back because we'll be afraid of escalating a nuclear war. So if you want, you could actually nuke us, is what that would be saying. So you would find some very strong arguments. If China were to nuke us, if North Korea were to nuke us, if Russia were to nuke us, you'd find some very strong arguments from people saying, we don't have a choice but to literally do the same attack back on them. Whatever they hit a military base, we hit a military base. Whatever it is, we would have to hit that they hit in order to keep our deterrent threat real, but it's very dangerous because, right, once you start throwing nukes, who knows, right? Thank you, Toic, for the gifts. Anyway. So what else? What else? What else? Hurricanes? What about the hurricanes, Karen? I'm not sure what that's about. What would we go for in response? What do you mean, bad omen? In response to what exactly? Oh no, in response to what though? I mean, thank you, Elizabeth. Oh well, no, it depends. If they were to hit thank you, Elizabeth. If the Russians were to nuke a military base, we would nuke a military base. If the Russians nuked a European city, we would nuke a Russian city probably. I mean, that's what the discussion would be. It would be very bad. But there'd be no choice, really, I think, at that point. You go nuclear and, do I think they'll ban TikTok? Speaking of nuclear, currently they planning on it. Currently, U.S. law requires it. It requires it to at least be banned in the U.S., basically. Having said that, Trump wants to save TikTok because Trump tried to ban TikTok, but Trump then met with a big donor who is an investor in TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, and suddenly, magically, after secretly meeting with the big donor, Trump no longer wants to ban TikTok. So Trump may tell the Republicans, pass some legislation quickly that fixes the TikTok ban, and they might be able to. Who knows? Who knows? But they may not. It depends because Democrats in the Congress could stop it potentially. So we don't know. This is going to be very up for grabs the next 5 weeks. Would the winds take the fallout into Russia? Maybe, Alex. There were some maps and things people did with regards to Ukraine if the Russians had bombed Ukraine with nukes and showing where the fallout would go. And I think a lot of that fallout was showing it going east or south and southeast, I think. But it kind of depends. I mean, these countries are also close to each other. It's mid-January is when they were talking. I don't know the exact date, but they were saying mid-January in the stories today is when TikTok would have to basically divest. Thank you, Elizabeth. Basically be sold by the Chinese company. Well, remember, we've got, like I said, our coffee talk January 19th. Oh, that's funny. It's the day before the inauguration. Interesting, Amanda. Actually, this is what gets even crazier. So the Republicans take over Congress January 3rd or so they could try to pass legislation. Maybe they'd succeed in saving TikTok. Biden's president until January 20th. Biden would have to decide whether or not he signs the legislation, so he could still potentially kill it. They could try to override it, but that's probably unlikely. So it's not clear that TikTok can be saved before January 19th. It's really screwed up. Should we buy TikTok? There is no TikTok stock. There may be stock in the parent company, ByteDance, I think. I don't remember whether ByteDance is a public company. Is it? Sasha, what now? Okay, second amount of water. It is 7 o'clock. One moment. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So who knows? Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, they'd have to have a majority. They'd have to have a supermajority to override the veto. But the Republicans are 220 to 215 in the House. They've only got a majority of 5 people. They don't have a supermajority. The Senate too. They're not that far ahead in the Senate either. So, is Russia at war with Syria now, or what's going on there? The Russians are not at war with Syria. The Russians are allies with the Syrian dictatorship. The Syrian dictatorship is in real trouble. The Russians are helping them, but they can't help them that much because they're so heavily vested in Ukraine. They've used so many men, so many weapons. They don't have anything to spare. So the Russians have done some bombings in Syria, but it's kind of, like you're on your own. It's really bad for Russia and bad for Assad, the dictator. So if anything, they're at peace with Syria in a bad way for the Syrians. The Syrians need them to get involved in the war, and they're not. I mean, fallout could go to Poland. That's a good question too, right? If Ukraine were nuked and the fallout went into Poland, that could arguably be an attack on NATO. And all of a sudden, Article 5 gets imposed, and we're at war. Oh, good for you, Gunther. Wow. Sorry, Gunther was saying 3 weeks ago, my employer made my whole department redundant and fired everyone. My last day is December 20th. I love it. Last day is 5 days before Christmas. I mean, could they be any ruder? I had a second round interview today and got a job offer, and it's an 11% salary raise from the previous job. That's funny. Good. Then I expect you to be buying lots of auction items, Gunther. Good for you. Wow. That's great. Beto, do you think if nukes were exchanged between NATO and Russia, even in just one each, China would go for Taiwan? Oh, that's interesting. So, I mean, that's an interesting question. So basically saying if NATO and Russia were to start exchanging nukes, even just one nuke, would China go for Taiwan? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, China, if China's smart, arguably, they would wait until NATO and the US especially are distracted before they went into Taiwan. Like right now would be a good time. I've been saying, with Ukraine, the U.S. has been spending a lot of money and weapons in Ukraine. We have fewer weapons to spend in a war with China. Might have been a good time, except that China was reportedly not ready yet to invade Taiwan. They need 4 more years or something, depending who you talk to get their military to the point where they could afford to invade Taiwan. So too bad. But generally speaking, yeah, it's better to invade. It's better to invade when your enemy is busy doing something else, because it's harder to fight 2 or 3 wars at once. So if conflict broke out with the Russians, it'd be a very interesting time for the Chinese to go after Taiwan. Yes. Having said that, it also could be more dangerous, because you could argue that nuclear weapons, Americans tend to be against using nuclear weapons. I know, World War II, but that was valid. It was also 75 years ago. But Americans tend to not, like U.S. military policy is not really proactively to use nukes. But if we're in a multi-front war and we're already exchanging nukes with Russia and China decides to get cute, you could see somebody who says, we don't have enough weapons to fight China too. But what we do have is nuclear weapons to fight China. You could see that argument being made. So all of a sudden, we tell China, you better lay off because we can't afford this war. We won't have a choice but to use nukes, right? So all of a sudden, so when you're getting into that calculation, it could be even more dangerous for China to challenge us if we're already in some kind of a hot war with the Russians. Who knows? Who knows, Tom? They're still going to take stuff out of your paycheck, of course, for Social Security. That's a given. I mean, they're always going to take away. They're always going to keep funding it. They're not going to get rid of it entirely. Probably they're going to cut it though. What you doing? What you doing, dog? What you doing? I got you. Ha! I have not shown you to people in a very long time. Okay. Ha! Oh, did you growl at me? She made a growling noise like. Ugh. Okay, I know you hate being picked up, but you're okay. All right. Absolutely. Actually, it makes her look like she's got a hat on TikTok. I do have a little Santa hat for her. I'll be putting it on as Christmas approaches. All right. Gonna put you down. Okay, I'll put you down. Okay. Oh, absolutely hates being ticked. I literally picked her up and she went. Yeah, camera shy. Exactly. She just has always hated being picked up. It freaks her out. I don't know why. Always hated it. Anyway, totally says, I know she's totally like, can I be done now? She's just like, it literally was like, Dad. Well, that's a good question, Blur. Where is all the money for tariffs going to? The federal budget. I don't know how it actually gets spent or whatever, but it does go to the federal budget. Of course, that's a tax on us. All the tariff money. Your dog Hope, Paula. That's funny. Exactly. This is your network, Sasha. Embrace it. She's always, ever since she was a puppy, she hated being picked up. So people doing it is really not good. I can get away with it, but even there, I was petting her and I had to pet her neck and then I grabbed her collar and she immediately tried to bolt because she knew, she's 15. She knew what was coming. That I was going to, so she tried to move and I was like, ha. But and somebody else doing it even worse, but me doing it too, I've got to be like, and then she'll stop and let me pick her up when I force her. Thank you, KT. What else, guys? We won't go too much longer because we've been going an hour and 15 minutes. And as I said, I had my little back procedure today. So I'm kind of like, ugh. I'm strongly considering today strongly considering making this Swedish kladdkaka, something like that. It's a sticky chocolate cake that's Swedish, and I've seen a couple different recipes for it, and I'm intrigued. It's supposed to be like, brownies mixed with volcano cake, which is moelleux, the French cake that's gooey on the inside. So I'm very tempted. So we shall see. So there's a very easy recipe that I may make of it tonight just to make it. I don't really need that stuff sitting around, but what do you do? Sometimes you're in the mood for chocolate cake, But we'll see if it's any good. I mean, you never know with this stuff. Chocolate cures most things. I know, exactly. But anybody who's Swedish, it's like kladdkaka or kladdkaka. I'd have to Google it again to see what it's called. But it's a sort of well-known, very traditional Swedish cake. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, what do you, kladdkaka? Okay, there you go, Pashkaran. Now, Solak said, I find it sobering to observe that many rich people tend to make choices to increase their wealth in the short term, not the long term. In so doing, they hurt other folks and thus also their own reputation. What do you mean by that? Example? Like, how do they hurt themselves in the long term? Kladdkaka. The recipe, I've got the recipe. There's a couple different recipes. I found one in like Gourmet or whatever. The one I've got here, I found online, but it had a lot of good reviews. It's like sugar, eggs, flour, cocoa powder, butter, more cocoa powder. Actually, it's just cocoa powder. I may put some chocolate in it too. I feel like cocoa powder isn't enough. Butter, that's it. It's a very simple recipe. Now, the other recipe I've got is much harder, and I'm not sure I'm in the mood to. The other one involves like chocolate, which is good, but you've got to whip the egg whites, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm there. You ate a chocolate buttermilk donut today? Oh, that sounds good. Nate, what if Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran all attack us at the same time? Again, we do have nukes in the end if we had to. The problem is, if they all attack us, then they're all at war with all of Europe and Canada too, and Australia and New Zealand. So, yeah, and a lot of maybe several Latin American countries. Argentina would go to war for us. Who knows who else would go to war for us? So it would be a mess. It'd be a mess. Probably several of the Middle Eastern countries would go to war on our side. It would be. So they'd have to be very careful doing it because it'd be World War III, literally. See you, Nick. So I'm not too worried about it, but Yeah, I'm just not sure what you mean by what you wrote, Solak, is the only thing. I don't understand what you wrote about. I get rich people making choices to increase their wealth in the short term, but not the long term. I don't understand how the guy being killed the other day was an example of not increasing your wealth in the long term. You know what I mean? It feels like a discordant concept. I don't get it. First time you ever had chocolate, you were 13? Misha, what do you mean? Are things that bad in Siberia? How did you not have chocolate? The Russians have chocolate. Maybe not as good as European chocolate. Our chocolate isn't as good as European chocolate. But how do you not have chocolate until you're 13? Oh my God, it's child abuse. Your uncle bought it for you. But why did they not have chocolate in the area? Were you guys? Did you guys not have much money? Was it expensive? I'm just surprised because growing up here, we had bad American chocolate, but we had chocolate. It was bad American chocolate, but it was chocolate. You're making chocolate chip cookies. I know. I do have I have not made my chocolate chip cookies in a while. I need to. Russians have bad chocolate, according to Blue Ariel. Wow. A rich, well-educated society has lots of smart, employable workers, which are more useful in today's workplace. Yes. You were very poor. Your mom and dad cared more about alcohol. Okay. That's not good then. Okay. Sorry. Did you just die when you had chocolate at 13? Even so Russian chocolate? That had to be an amazing experience, I would think. Although I don't know, is Russian chocolate any good? Oops, let me look here. Hold on here. Ooh, I'll take that. Andy Sandberg, he's kind of hot. Somebody just said I look like an older Andy Sandberg. Well, the picture I'm seeing of him is pretty hot, so I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you. My injection went fine. Thank you. It hurt, but it went fine. Russian chocolate so-so. Yeah. But do you like chocolate now, or because you didn't grow up with it, is it no big deal? Or because you didn't grow up with it, is it like, oh my God, kid in a candy store, chocolate everywhere, which is certainly me. I mean, I grew up with chocolate, but I love chocolate. Oh my God. And then discovering European chocolate only made life even better. But yes, the back injection was okay. I pinched a nerve in my back and had to get a steroid injection in my back today, which was not fun. It hurt, but it hurts for like 15, 20 seconds and then it's okay. It's just, I'm very tired right now. So that's why I said, like, I probably shouldn't have, I kind of didn't want to do the show, but I then was like, I don't want to skip the show tonight, but I'm just very weak. It stresses you more than you realize, I think. Any kind of procedure, you forget about that. Your son prefers fruit. Oh my God, how funny. How funny. Harvey Firestein, Gunther, watch it. Misha says, I love chocolate now. Literally can't say no to it. I'm the same way though. Although I'm picky about chocolate. Like, I am not happy about chocolate that isn't good enough. Like, I get very upset at desserts that are like okay desserts, but they're not worth the calories and worth the fat. Because that's why this recipe for the Swedish thing is interesting, but it's only using powdered cocoa, which sometimes I find isn't rich enough. I may even, like I said, I may just add some melted chocolate chips to the recipe just to make it a little, even though I shouldn't mess around with the recipe, just to make it a little bit richer. Harvey Firestein, are you insane? Like, caramel or fruit or vanilla? That's funny. My preference of chocolate is hard to say. I don't generally eat chocolate bars. I like chocolate to be gooey. So I like a lot of American desserts. I do like the British Baking Show, Danny. I like brownies and chocolate chip cookies and, again, French volcano cake or whatever, moelleux. I like my chocolate gooey and rich and runny and, oh my God. Truffles are good. Truffles are good. Again, I don't generally eat truffles and die. I mean, I like truffles a lot. I like chocolate bars, but I like my chocolate melting. So like a chocolate chip cookie chocolate, a brownie, a warm gooey brownie. Oh my God. Even Ben & Jerry's chocolate fudge brownie ice cream. Big fan. Big fan of that. Even though I'm not an ice cream guy, I like that ice cream. The little brownie chunks in it are really good. Chocolate fondue. I think I've had chocolate fondue. It was okay. I mean, I guess it depends on the chocolate and what you're fonduing, But I mean, I love chocolate overall, though. I'm actually pissed off because I had my neighbor get me 2 bars of this French baking chocolate that's to die for, Nestle Corset, and I think I put it in the freezer and I can't find it. I know I didn't use it yet. So I'm convinced it's in my freezer, and I keep going through my freezer looking for it. Because chocolate after a while can taste funny, so you put it in the freezer and it keeps it fresh. I can't find the damn thing. I'm so pissed off. I may go through my freezer again. I've gone through my freezer twice. I can't find it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Absolutely cannot. Well, I thought Damien too. I have to say, I'm thinking I thought Damien, but I'm thinking Damien probably wouldn't have eaten it because it's a chocolate bar. I mean, who knows? I'll ask him. I can't imagine Damien eating my chocolate from France, my baking chocolate. I'd kill him. I don't think he would, though. I don't think he would. You tried the peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's. Aren't they good, Martin? Yeah. I was saying, if you go to Trader Joe's, try their version of the peanut butter cups. They've got milk chocolate and dark chocolate. I've only tried the dark chocolate. It's very good. And I almost find them a little rich, meaning I only want to eat a few. Like, I don't want to eat 10 of them. Reese's, I could eat 10 of them. But the Trader Joe ones, I do 2 or 3, and I'm usually pretty happy, which is good. Are the milk chocolate ones any good? Although I guess it depends how you feel about milk chocolate. I like darker chocolate. But if I ever want UK chocolate, just shout. I wouldn't oppose UK chocolate. What's considered good among UK chocolate? Aldi's? Oh, that's interesting. Aldi's has good. I don't have an Aldi's near here, actually. A chocolate lava Reese's peanut butter cup now? Where is that? At Aldi's or where? Where is that, Christina? Well, that, I know it is Nestle. That's what I'm wondering about. There's no way. I have to ask him and see. I wonder if Damien. There's no way he would have eaten them. There's no way. Côte d'Or, bonbon. Oh, well, I am always happy to accept British chocolate, any chocolate from anywhere, to be honest. Galaxy chocolate. They found the shooter's backpack. Is that true, Holly? Are we sure? Ooh, that's interesting. At Walgreens. Oh, that's interesting. Chocolate lava. Oh, so Reese's has its own dark version now, you mean? Oh, that's interesting. Ooh, they found the shooter's backpack. Interesting. I will say this. Ghirardelli's chocolate is very good in the U.S. I get the 72%. It's very good. Excellent, actually. Interesting. I got the backpack. Very interesting. Caramello Koala. No, I've not. I like caramel chocolate. If it's not too sweet. I did buy, actually, you know what I did buy was that British caramel chocolate thing the other day, and it was too sweet, which I was bummed. What do you call the Cadbury's or whatever? Sorry, dog wants more water. Cadbury's, it was too sweet, which was too bad. All right. Oh. So that had me a little bummed out with the sweetness of it. Lint. Interesting. Left it in Central Park. Interesting. I think it's caramello. Yeah. I used to like it as a kid, but I tried it the other day and it was just too, it was sickeningly sweet. I couldn't eat it. I did enjoy the Swedish chocolate. Was the first stuff I ate, Elizabeth. The Swedish chocolate was very good. Yes. I don't remember now which I preferred. I must have said at the time in the videos. Actually, the problem with the Swedish chocolate was I was saving it for a video and then I ate it. So I don't even know if I did videos of the Swedish chocolate. I may not have, but it was very good. I was very impressed with the Swedish chocolate. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Our taste buds changed. That's part of it. Yeah. Like it wasn't too sweet as a kid. Now I'm like, I still like a lot of stuff that I liked as kids, but that was too much. Lindt chocolate, Norwegian. Hey, I'm all for a chocolate war among the Scandinavians. Works for me. You guys have to get me to Norway. I've been to Sweden twice for work stuff, like doing speaking at conferences about the internet and blogging and everything else. And now that I'm like TikTok guy, speaking at conferences about TikTok and how to use it, maybe get me to Norway, get me your country. But okay, I'll check it out, Paula. Thank you. But no, I've always wanted to go to Norway. I've been also would like to go. I don't believe you. I'm going to be looking. Jeez. Yeah, I think because it's freezing out, the sticks, like somebody said, the sticks have become like a frozen winter treat to her now. Finland would be cool too. Obviously, well, Finland, especially because like we just don't know as much about Finland. It's just not a place people go from America. Norway's still like on the second tier. Like first tier for Americans, it's going to be Paris, London, Paris first, London, Rome, maybe Greek Isles, maybe Spain, but that's pushing it a little. On the first list. Then the second list maybe becomes Ireland, Germany, maybe Italy. Well, Italy, I said Rome. Italy's on the first list, actually. Ireland, Scotland, but again, I put Scotland on the second list, though. I don't think Scotland's the first places we go to are Paris, Rome would be the first two. Amsterdam's pretty high up, but Amsterdam still is, if you're traveling around a bit, it's still Paris number one and Rome probably number two, I would say. And maybe London, maybe number three, because they speak the language. It's easy for Americans. That's kind of the mindset. So like we don't go to Scandinavia. We do, but we don't. It's going to be further down the list. And honestly, it doesn't help how expensive it is, which I didn't know until I went to Sweden for work twice. Oh my God, I couldn't believe how expensive it was. Oh my God. Like I remember, well, not mind you, this was 15 years ago. I hear you. This was 14 years ago. And mixed drinks at like any restaurant or whatever were $20 and up. But for a mixed drink, at this point, they were maybe $10 in America. A burger, will you stop, please? I love you, I know. I was starving. I think I had arrived that day. I was starving. And I told my friends, I was like, I just got to get some food. They said, you know what? Let's go. There's a local pub. You can get a burger there. I went to the pub for a burger. It was $30 for a burger at a pub. And I told them, I said, I'm not paying for it. I'm not going to do it. Because I made the mistake, too, of going to Sweden. And I gave them like a speaking fee. And I had no idea how expensive things were. And I should have done a per diem and said, I need money to live. But it was so, oh, my God. The cab, like the cab to go 10 minutes from the office to my hotel was like $30. Oh, I mean, it was just insane. But everything was prohibitively expensive where you'd go, oh my God, I'm not paying that. And I was told Norway was even worse. So that's why I got to go to Norway for work. Actually, I want to visit, is it Norway? The woman who does the TikTok videos, that little island way in the north. It's sort of off of Europe a little bit. Is it on the way to not Greenland, the other place, Iceland? Svalbard, there you go. Gunther knows these things. Svalbard, exactly. There's a woman who does a little TikTok show from there. It's really nice. Iceland, I've never gone. I want to go. Our next door neighbor back home is from Iceland. Very, very funny guy. Lars, hilarious guy. Just the driest, craziest sense of humor. Just hilarious. The lady with the dog, exactly. Ruth and Lars, our neighbors back home. Malta was less than a euro for a beer. Oh, that's funny. Wow. Cecilia's her name? Okay. Swim with the orcas? I'd be iffy on swimming with the orcas. Copenhagen, I've never visited. I've been to the airport. That was it. Airport was very nice. Very nice airport, actually. A very impressive airport in Denmark. But I was only passing through. I think on the way to Sweden, probably. Oh, you saw Ruth? I didn't remember that. Iceland is expensive. That's interesting. Well, the places that are out of the way, it's very expensive to ship stuff there. Like Alaska's that way. I'm sure Hawaii probably is too. But Alaska, it's just super expensive to ship anything there. So all the products cost crazy amounts of money. You know? Went to the same school as Queen Mary. That's cute. Anyway, what parts of Europe have I been to? Oh, God. A lot. Well, a lot, but not too many at the same time, I guess. I mean, a lot for an American. England, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, a little bit. Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Greece, Italy. East Germany, which was kind of fascinating. Russia, which doesn't really count because it's not really Europe. And I think that's it for Europe, which is a lot for an American, but it's not a lot for European. For European, you'd be like, that's okay. But not been to Ireland. I've always wanted to go. Switzerland. I have been to Switzerland too. I was going to say, for an American, it's good. Although a lot of Americans of a certain class have traveled. You know what I mean? I mean, it is certainly more common. It's certainly more common in the last 40 or 50 years for Americans of middle class and up to have gone abroad. And maybe they don't go all the time, but they'll go to Europe and visit 3 or 4 countries and things like that. You know? Of course, I've been to Mexico a couple times. Yeah, I love Mexico. Yeah. Russia's Europe, you know. Oh, thank you, RTR. Thank you for that. The rock star, always a fun gift. Maybe this is stupid. Is there some chance they take money from Social Security to pump their currency? What they actually want to do, Einstein and Niels Bohr, what the Republicans have been wanting to do forever is they want to take the money for Social Security and have it be invested in the stock market, which is interesting. And that's what they've been proposing forever. And they say rather than having it just sit in the federal budget, it should be invested in the stock market. The problem is, I don't know how that works in practice because Republicans and Democrats both have been literally taking the money that comes for Social Security and using it to spend on other programs. So it's not like the money exists to put in the stock market. It's already being spent on other stuff. But that's what they want to do because they argue, I mean, they may not be wrong about this. They argue that the return on the money has been much less than what it would be if it were in the stock market. The problem is if the stock market crashes, then all of a sudden Social Security loses half its money for the next 10 decades, So, but that's what they're proposing, among other things, is privatizing Social Security. It depends. I mean, the thing is, I don't know enough about the issue, meaning they're not wrong that it would have done very well privatized. My work experience over the last 50 years, my money would have done very well in the stock market. Having said that, if you left me in charge of the money, I might have destroyed it. So this becomes an interesting question too. Do you let people decide how the money's invested? Because if then they could just all spend it and waste it, But yes, it is a risky thing having it in the stock market. Having said that, it's also risky having it go to the government and they spend the money. You're welcome, Einstein. All I know is they kind of spend the money anyway. So I've never quite, one of the things I don't like about Social Security debate, there are certain debates in America where you can't get a straight answer, I feel. Social Security is one of those things. I have never felt like I've gotten a straight answer that I trust from anybody on the issue. I think, the advocacy groups on the left, I want to believe. I still feel like they're partisans. The Republicans, I totally don't believe. I mean, they literally, I think they're full of shit in the arguments they make on Social Security. They want the money to go to the stock market because they'd love the money in the stock market because Elon Musk's stock will go even higher if all our Social Security money goes to the stock market. So I've never, and then you find people who say, oh, Social Security will run out of money in 8 years. And then the other people who say it's never running out of money. And I'm going, okay, which one is it? It's very weird. I've never felt like I've gotten a straight answer about Social Security. Like I don't know who to turn to get a real answer on where does it stand? Is it solvent? Isn't it? Et cetera. So anyway, Donnie, I would be careful with that. Just because people in general, you don't want to be saying things people perceive as death threats. It will get you banned. Not just by me, but I mean by TikTok itself. I would be careful with that. Actually, I'm even going to do you a favor and I can't actually get rid of that, can I? I'd have to mute you. Mods, if you can figure out how to get rid of the comment for Danny. Yeah, don't say something like this because you could get into real trouble. Yeah. Okay, you're you muted for 5 seconds. Perfect. There you go. But TikTok is going away. Exactly. Danny will be okay. TikTok's going away in 5 weeks anyway. 6 weeks. Exactly. I mean, Social Security is a form of a tax. I mean, literally, we're taxed. And then they're supposed to save the money and give it back to us later. I mean, it should not have been rocket science. There should have been ways of safely investing it. It's okay. I just sort of like to warn people to be careful with that stuff, But, anyway. Misha says, now interesting from Misha, who is Russian born. In my opinion, Russia is not European. Russia is also different than Asia and Middle East. Russia is just Russia. It's very different than any place. I don't disagree. I mean, I have only been to Moscow, St. Petersburg, and when it was Leningrad, and Kamchatka, kind of funny. Even in Kamchatka, it wasn't Asia. I mean, it was actually Kamchatka was something else entirely. Petropavlovsk. I liked it. Strange, though. I feel like Russia is the fringes of Europe, but then when you get so far east, it's not Europe anymore. It can't be, thousands of miles away. In the West, it's European-esque. I mean, having said that, you're not Eastern European. I mean, you get into Eastern Europeans and you start to get a weird mix. Oh, you see lots of volcanoes in Kamchatka. Yeah, I didn't go close to them, but there's volcanoes everywhere in Kamchatka. The whole skyline is volcanoes. Yeah. Yep. but I feel like mentality-wise, the Russians are not Europeans, but then again, are the Ukrainians, right? I mean, once you get further enough east, are the Belarusians Europeans? Are they Slavs? Are they both? Are the Ukrainians? Are the Russians? I mean, you do get into this mixture of similar. Again, I'm not an expert on Ukraine or Belarus, but I wonder whether you do get similar traits and personalities and things in that region that is this sort of uniquely quasi-European but quasi-Slavic, quasi-Eastern Europe kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, Greeks are interesting as Europeans too, because I find Greeks to be very different from Italians or French, very different, but they're Europeans, but they're very different. I don't know. Blue Ariel saying Ukraine is definitely European Slavs, in my opinion. But then comes the question about the Russians, though. Are the Russians that different that Moscow and St. Petersburg is not Europe? Or is it kind of Europe? But having said that, you almost could talk about Moscow and St. Petersburg, Western Russia, as being, Australia, Europe, where it's this land that was disconnected from Europe for so long in many ways that, marsupials grew there, right? You've got all sorts of animals in Australia or Madagascar that you don't have anywhere else because it was so separate for so long. And I wonder whether Russia, and I do not claim to be a historian to really know the many hundred years of Russian history, European history interacting, but I wonder whether Russia hasn't been a little too disconnected from Europe for so long. I mean, certainly the last 100 years of the Soviet Union, that Europe sort of grew and Russia didn't. Greece as well. Greece is punished because Greece was occupied by the Turks for 400 years. I mean, the Renaissance in Europe happened while Greece did not have a Renaissance because Greece was occupied by the Turks and it was being held back by this Turkic culture. It was not Europe. It was not the Renaissance at all, So all of a sudden, do those countries start to develop differently? Maybe even not develop as much as the other. Certainly Renaissance-wise, Europe developed culturally, Greece did not. Russia, maybe in a similar way, certainly over the last 100+ years, Europe has been developing and Russia's been stuck, I don't know. I wonder about that, like I said, development of the culture, and therefore do the cultures become so separate that all of a sudden the Russians are now marsupials, that they've been disconnected too long. I think it was a huge opportunity for Russia after the Soviet Union fell. They could have joined Europe. They could have literally said, you know what, enough of this, enough of the kleptocracy, enough of the dictatorships. We want a democracy. Good luck with that. We're not going to have mafia run the country, and we're going to join Europe and become a European country. And it would have been amazing. I mean, I don't know if they could do it, but it would have been amazing. And they shot themselves in the foot. And this Putin thing, forget it. I mean, it's just very sad. Orkland. Yeah, exactly. So Russia has so much Tatar influence. Interesting. Well, and then you get Eastern Russia, and then you're talking about an entirely other ballgame, obviously, right? It's just so big. Your friends in Moscow consider themselves European. And again, here's the question. For you Europeans out there, do you consider the Russians European? That's my question for the Europeans. That's an interesting question, actually, because as an American, what do I know? You're the ones who actually are there, Now, actually, give me a yes or no and what country you're from, because I don't necessarily know where you guys are from. Ash is breaking the rules and saying more Asian, even though she's American, but it's okay. She's a mod. We let her do it. Netherlands. But what do you say from the Netherlands, Edwin? No from Poland, no from Norway, no from Netherlands, no from England, UK. Courtney, thank you for the gift, Courtney. Yeah, that would be my sense. I would think Russia's been so disconnected from Europe for so long. No, from Australia. That's interesting. Yeah, I just Brazil, more Asian. But are Moscow and St. Petersburg Asian, right? They're not Asian, right? Thank you, Kathy. You know, or Gothic selves or whatever says the same thing that Misha said, which is seeing them as their own entity. That's what Misha was saying, who was born in Russia. And it is now American, that it's almost, oh, hell, thank you, Cheryl. It's kind of cute when I turn it down, you can actually see the head better. You know, European adjacent. That's what I mean. They're European curious. They're Europe curious, you know. But again, it's kind of a poorer brother of Europe, you know. And you also have to get into the whole thing of, first of all, it's a fascinating question. What does it even mean to be European, right? I mean, you guys, in many ways, Europeans are like Americans. European individual countries are not. Your countries are very monotheistic, genetically, you know, genotypes, right? I mean, it's sort of versus America, where we've always been a mix. I mean, we're very white. We had been till recently, but we're still very white, very mixed. But Europe as a community is very much like America, where you've got all these distinct countries, and they're so different. I mean, I have a hard time defining what I would consider European. Like, what do Greeks, French, and Englishmen have in common? And Swedes? I'm not quite sure what that is, really. They have a shared history, in a sense, of the countries always going to war and stuff, right? But like, how does one define a European when we're saying who is and isn't? So are we saying culturally, economically, socially, politically? I mean, shared language, but they don't have a shared language. Europeans don't, right? I mean, and even American, I'd have to really think, like, how do we define what it means to be American? And actually, foreigners might even be better at it. You know, Europeans might even be better at going, oh, Americans, you're all kind of like this and this and this and this, you know, kind of weirdly optimistic and, you know, this kind of stuff, right? A little bit arrogant, you know, a little bit word, you know, that, but there's certain things like that in common, maybe. But it is an interesting question as to how you even define being European culturally, ethnically, politically. It's not enough to say, well, we all live nearby and we're part of the same community. Okay, but that's not really the answer. Yeah, Northern Europe's very different from Southern Europe. Yeah. Oh my God, dog, I hear you. Oh my God, look, just photobombing and pissed off, this one. I hear you. I know. Didn't help today that I had like the back procedure, because then I didn't take her out and walk around. Come here. I know, come here. Okay. All right. Europeans think we are loud and crass. They're correct. Then again, meet some British soccer fans. Meet some drunk Germans. They can meet some Australians. Oh my God. I'd only met Australians in Europe. I'd never met Australians near Australia until I went to Indonesia like 25 years ago. And oh my God, that was a whole other class of Australians I met in Indonesia, drunk and obnoxious. Oh my God. I mean, the Australians always met in Europe were always like, great. It was pretty bad. I mean, by the way, we're the same way, but it was like your worst version of an American, you know, drinking at the beach was meeting the Australians. I was like, oh my God. It was a bit much. But again, we have the same thing. My back is hanging in there. I had a pinched nerve in the back. I had to get a little injection today of steroids. It's okay. I'm very winded today. Like, the procedure, even though it wasn't much and it wasn't long, it's made me very tired. So I'm good, but I'm like, you know, a bit pooped out. Sakha Republic. Now, where is Sakha Republic? That's not like Sakhalin, is it? I know you said Yakutia, but I'm forgetting exactly where. I know it's Siberia, but hold on. Let's see. Sakha Republic, where it is exactly. Oh, okay. You're literally right next to, okay, wow. Boy, you're in the middle of freaking nowhere. Jesus Christ. Yeah, you're right before all the Alaskan areas. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Chukotka and all of that. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to see if anything is there. You have a Pleistocene park. That's very cool. I'm not even seeing names of anything I even recognize in that region. Hold on. Let's see. What do we have here? Boy. God, I'm not like Misha. Name a town. Name your most famous town in that republic, because I'm not seeing any town. Wow, I'm not seeing any town that I recognize. And usually there's at least some city. Yakutsk. Okay, Yakutsk. Okay, Yakutsk. Yes, I know of Yakutsk. That's it. But I probably know of Yakutsk from Risk. That's going to be my guess. Well, very true too, though. Yeah. You're American. Solek says Americans are a combination of all the good and bad features of immigrant cultures. Very much, very, very true. Yeah, Yakutsk. That I've heard, but that I've heard because of Risk. The other towns I've never even heard of, which is interesting. No, we've got a lot of. What was the? I don't want to keep doing this all night because I am tired. I've got to go rest now. But you made me think when Solek said Americans are the combination of all the good and bad features of immigrants. Two things. One, I talked about this before. The special miniseries called The Roosevelts that, it was the Roosevelts, yeah, which was at one point talking about getting into World War II and how the American people did not want to join World War II. And President Roosevelt wanted us into World War II, but he had to be very careful because the public did not want to get involved. And the way they explained in the documentary, which was fascinating, was we were a nation of immigrants who fled all the European wars. My grandfather, my Greek grandfather, one of them, fled Europe in 1938 with my mom and their family to escape the Nazi invasion of Greece. He thought the Germans were going to invade, and he wanted to get our family out of there. Do you take your family out of Greece in 1938, and then in 1939, the new country you're in, do you really want them to declare war on Germany? Right? When you literally just left there to get your family out of there? And they were saying that so many of the Americans at that point were European immigrants who had come in the last 20, 30, 40 years to escape European wars. So they didn't want to get in war. But it was interesting how that basically their Europeanness influenced who they were. Now, another thing that's interesting is, I always like to bring this up too. In the Midwest, where I'm from in America, Chicago area, we have lots of different expressions. And one of the expressions, which I always found interesting because people in other parts of the country hear it. Like, I don't hear it because it's what we say. But people in other parts of the country will hear it and say, what is that? We will say, like, I'm going to the store. Do you want to come with? To me, that's normal. To some Americans, that sounds horrible. Come with. They feel like it's dangling. It should be, do you want to come with me? Like, they literally sit there and I've had people go, I'm like, what? They go, you didn't finish the sentence. Come with. And people told me it was German, probably. Maybe other languages too. But apparently the Germans say komm mit or something like that. Somebody who speaks German help me out here. But that it very well could be the German influence. We were Germans. I mean, the Midwest where I'm from was all Germans originally in the 1800s. So that it could have been the German influence affecting the Mitkommen, Elizabeth says. But they do it in Pennsylvania. That's interesting. Pennsylvania Dutch, German influence. That's interesting. Oh, it's definitely not teenager language. No, we'd say, are you going to come with? Are you coming with? Yeah, I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with. I think it makes sense. You're right. I mean, that would not even be informal language for us at all. Like, that would not be considered. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with. That would be sufficiently formal. Yeah. Not really translated German made, but I was saying that in the Midwest, Chicago area, we have an expression, a way of speaking that other parts of the U.S. hear and go, what is that? And I was told it might be German, where you would say, I'm going to go to the store tomorrow. Do you want to come with? Or, he's going to go talk to his boss. He's going to go a dangerous part of the city tomorrow. I really think I ought to go with. And to go with someone, but you don't say to go with someone. You don't say, so you don't put an object there or whatever. You just say go with. And to other parts of the US, it's as if the sentence is stopping mid-sentence. And literally, I've had people look at me and go, and I'm like, what? They go, you didn't finish the sentence. What do you mean I didn't finish it? You said go with what? Go with who? Go with where? I'm like, me? What do you mean? What? It obviously means go with me or go with you. South Florida, that's normal. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, but you're Midwest, Ashley. Of course, you say it. Gehen mit. Is gehen like go? Or come with. Exactly. Come with, we also say, as Mel said. Yeah. Can I come with? Can I come with? Meaning, can I come with you? Yeah, kommen mit, did you say? Tennessee, that's normal. That's interesting. Jersey, too. Very interesting. Yeah. No, but parts of the country will hear you and just be like, what the hell is that? Yeah. And it's funny because I don't even hear it. Like, it doesn't even seem, as I said, I don't think of it as being a regional thing, and I don't think of it as being lesser class or anything, like it being casual, too casual. Not at all. Nevada, it's normal. That's interesting. That's funny. Misha says, my brother-in-law says that and it confuses me. Okay, why does it confuse me or confuse you? Because you literally feel like come with, what do you mean? Like you don't know, it's just like there is a missing word? Because usually it means you or me, or that there's a person next, and you get it from the context. So if you're going, I'd like to go with. Clearly, it means I mean you. Or why don't you come with? That clearly means with me, or with us, or with them. With come means me. Go. Oh, I'm figuring this out. Come means me. Go means them. So why don't you go with them? Why don't you come with me? It sounds pretentious. Oh, that's funny. It's quite the opposite. That's funny. Do you want to come? Do you want to come? Oh, I guess that works. Do you want to come? Do you want to come with? See, to me, do you want to come almost sounds like it's cut off. It works, though. Yeah. Do you want to go? Do you want to go? Yeah. Well, no. Do you want to go is different. Do you want to go means either you're going or you're not. It doesn't. Do you want to go means we're not going, but should we go? Go with means we're going. Do you want to come with us? Right? So yeah, there's that party going tomorrow. Do you want to go? Right? We're not sure if we want to go, but I'm going to the party. Do you want to go? No. You'd say, I'm going to the party. Do you want to go with? Do you want to come with? I think of it more that way. It's a little more nuanced, but anyway, that's funny though. I've said you want to come, but it sounds a little weird. Maybe the sexual thing is a problem too, to be honest. Like we just sort of don't say you want to come. You'd say you want to come with. Want to come? Maybe, yeah. You want to go means fight in your generation in English, American English? Oh, you want to go at it. Oh, yeah. You want to go at it means I think of as fighting. Yeah. A little bit older, like, oh boy, they really went at it, meaning also a verbal fight. That's true. That's true. That is true. And Misha's now getting totally confused. Yep. You've just had a 300 class level English lesson today, Misha, with all the nuance. Square up? Square up means pay the bill or something, doesn't it? Or figure out how much we owe, I think. Is that not square up? I don't remember, actually. Do you want to come along? That's funny. Square up means fight? That I did not know. Square up means fight? No. Fisticuffs. Hands up. Oh, that's funny. I don't know. It means fight. I've never heard that. Square up? No. Square up means pay the bill. That's what I think. Square up also means figure out the bill. Like, oh, should we square up? Like each of us pay what we owe kind of thing. Separable and inseparable verbs. Have a fade means fight in slang today. Oh, that's funny. Have a fade. Yeah, well, young people, who knows? Yeah, you know. Would you like to accompany me? Yes, Mrs. That's funny. Swear up. British English square up means fight. So it's British English. Okay. Okay. Square up. That's funny. Catch a fade. Let's fade. Huh. The liquor store is the bottle. I don't know what that means, Treff. I don't even know what that sentence means. Square up is American too. For a fight? To align objects orthogonally, economically, it means to pay what we owe. That I know. Colloquially, it depends on region. Bottle O. Oh, Bottle O is a liquor store? So you'd say, let's go to the Bottle O? The bottle shop? The bottle shop. That always cracks me. I always wanted to live in England for a while because I enjoy the language difference. I just find it funny. And it fascinates. Like I was thinking this the other day, like talking to Callum, it just fascinates me that he speaks a different version of English, but we understand each other mostly. It just fascinates me, you know? So I've always enjoyed when I go to the UK and being able to speak English, or Australia too, being able to speak English with them is fascinating anyway, that we're brought up with the same language, but it's different. And different country, we can understand each other, which is really cool. But at the same time, the different words are like, you know, pants, of course, because pants in England means underwear. Things like that you really have to be careful, you know. But it's funny. Square off. Square off. Square off. I guess square off. Maybe I think of like in a boxing ring to square off. Yeah, I do know that actually. Yeah, I do know that. Like squaring off in a boxing ring. Trash can is a bin. Oh, bin does sound nicer though. The trash bin. You might say a trash bin here. You might. But a trash bin here is often going to be a bigger trash can out behind a building. It's a trash bin. I think of that. Fanny pack. I had my own fanny pack problem on flying Virgin Airways and asking the stewardess to get me my fanny pack back. Your what? And I was like, what? She goes, we don't say that. I said, what did I say? Oh God. And then she went and told all the other flight attendants what I said because she thought it was hilarious. I was mortified. A Donald Trump loo? Oh, Donald Trump. Oh, that's funny. The recycle bin. Oh, that's funny. A dumpster. Yeah, dumpster would be a bin. Yeah. Yeah, dumpster. Trash bin. Yeah, I don't use trash bin anyway, really. I know it, but a poubelle for trash can in French is even pretty. Yeah, poubelle. Pantaloons. They don't say pantaloons, do they? Or are pants pantaloons? What do they call pants? Trousers are pants, right? Is that what they use? Or is that just for men? Yeah, don't say that, Joshua. I would not. Don't go there. Trousers. Okay. Right. Pantaloons are big, fluffy underwear they wore 100 years ago, aren't they? Yeah, as a joke. Okay. Your Nana called them pantaloons? That's funny. Knickers? I don't really know what knickers are either. Pants are underwear, correct, for the Brits. Exactly. Dungarees. Oh, God, that is funny. Jeans is dungarees. That is funny. Slacks. Yeah. Trousers in England. Okay, trousers. Now, trousers is a great word, but we don't use them. It's a very, very grandpa word. Not my grandpa, but American grandpa's kind of word, trousers. It just sounds funny. Like, okay, I guess it's the 1940s again. You know, trousers. Slacks, too. Slacks are okay. Slacks is a bit of a mom word. Trousers is a bit of a grandpa word. I almost think of slacks as being women pants and trousers being men pants. Thank you, Marcos. Interlingua, modern language mutually intelligible to most Romance languages. Well, it's almost like Esperanto trying to be, right? Dress smart. Yeah, that's a good expression. Yep. Jumpers. Yeah, I've heard that. Also, do you guys call, you don't call zip-up sweatshirts jumpers, do you? We sort of had that discussion because I think like my Zelensky sweatshirt that I just auctioned off, don't you guys call that a jumper too? Whereas I think of a jumper as being just sweaters. You know? Your dog's name is Trousers. That's cute. That's still a jumper. That's what I thought. Yeah. So like a sweatshirt can be a jumper and a sweater can be a jumper. Okay. Obviously, they're very different items, right? Knit versus sweatshirt. Pantalones, exactly. Yeah, or pantalon in French. Yeah. Actually, pantalones. Pantalones, I think we say in Greek too. I'm forgetting now. I think that's what we say in Greece. Anyway, rompers. I don't remember that. Are rompers slacks too, or what? For Brits, I don't know. A jumper being a one-piece outfit a child will wear. That's what we'd say. Correct. Sneakers are tough because in the Midwest we call them all tennis shoes. We used to call them all tennis shoes, which I call them gym shoes, not tennis shoes, gym shoes. We call all of those things gym shoes that you wear for sports. I do. And out here, people are like, oh, those are sneakers. Those are tennis shoes. And they come up with all these different words. And I'm like, it's a gym shoe. I don't know what the hell it is. Sneakers. Okay. But are sneakers different than tennis shoes? I can talk about linguistics all night. I love it. Tennies? Oh, that's funny. They're all sneakers? Oh, okay. So you say all sneakers the way we say gym shoes. Fair enough. Okay. Trainers? Trainers, I would be a little, yeah, interesting. Trainer. Yeah, Vernon saying trainers too. Okay. Tennis shoes. Like I understand tennis shoes. Trainers. That's funny. Yeah, sneakers are cheap. Tennis shoes are Nikes. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Anyway, all right, guys, let's call it quits. It's been 2 hours, and I really shouldn't be doing this all night since I'm still a bit winded from my my procedure today. So I may not make I really want to make my Swedish cake, but I also want to die in front of the TV. So I'm going to, I think I'm just going to get some of my Scottish tablet I made and just pork out on that in front of the TV. So tomorrow morning, we will do our show just for the paid subscribers, 11 a.m. Eastern. So join me. Otherwise, I will be back Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern. So yeah, I'm fine within reason. I mean, I pinched a nerve in my back, so I had to do a injection of a steroid in my back today, which was not fun. Quick though, but not fun. So I hear you, dog. Don't worry. All right, I've got to brush her teeth and give her a treat now. So it's time for that. But yes, Sunday. I don't think I'm doing Sunday. I think I did the Sunday show already like a week ago. I think. Am I wrong? The Sunday show was a week ago, right? Let me look here. I think so. I think so. Am I crazy? Sunday, January 5th is the next show. Yeah, I just did it last week. Yeah, we just did the Sunday show. So the Saturday show is tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern for all the paid subscribers. So, okay, I am correct. Good. All right, guys, I'm going to go then, chill out a little bit for the TV, but see the paid subscribers tomorrow, 11 a.m., and then everybody else, I'll see you Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern, all right? All right, thanks, guys. All right, have a good night, everybody. Go to bed if you're in Europe. Have some coffee if you're in Asia. All right, bye, guys. And thank you.